Storm, then that an incredibly powerful storm here that has made landfall. The eye is now coming over Marsh Harbor, home to about 6,000 people in the Bahamas, and the violence that is occurring now in the Bahamas is unspeakable. We're talking about winds likely gusting over 200 miles per hour, along with storm surge values above 20 feet. The elevation in Marsh Harbor is 13 feet. It is just awful to think about what is happening in the northern part of the Bahamas right now as the storm very slowly works along towards the west. So there is the storm surge forecast, 18 to 23 feet. Also looking at a storm surge potential along the east coast of Florida, 4 to 7 feet from Jupiter and on northward towards the Treasure Coast, and 2 to 4 feet down to almost Deerfield Beach. So this is a look at the model forecast over the next couple of days. We have talked much about the fact that the storm is going to slow down dramatically, so it is going to be a relentless pounding of the most intense type of hurricane imaginable here in the northern part of the Bahamas. This is forever going to change parts of the northern Bahamas over the next couple of days. That is 36 hours right there of relentless wind and surge and heavy rain across the northern Bahamas, and then it gets very, very close to the east on track from the National Hurricane Center. Now,
sorry everyone, I had to pause it for a quick second and grab the door.
Small area right now, that could change if we see what is called an eye wall replacement cycle, but right now extending out about 20 miles from the center. So as you follow this, area, that area of hurricane force winds only probably about 20 miles from the coast.
Prayers to everyone in the
Bahamas,
Bahamas
20 miles
right
from
now.
the coast, and the average forecast error within this time frame, 48 hours, is about 70 miles, or more than 3 times that distance. So it's entirely possible that the storm will wobble a little farther to the west than is being forecast right now. And that's why when we look at the reasonable worst case scenario, we're looking at the possibility of hurricane force winds there along the east coast of Florida, from West Palm Beach up into Indian River and St. Lucie counties there, also to Vero Beach and the Treasure Coast as well, and then winds in tropical storm force range, mid to high grade tropical storm force range, well inland. That's the reasonable worst case scenario at this point. So that's why there are hurricane watches now in effect in Palm Beach County, Indian River, St. Lucie, and then on up into Brevard County as well. Hurricane conditions entirely possible. And again, this is based on this current track. And if that track changes, if it moves just a little farther to the west, that is greatly going to amplify all of those effects. It's going to be that much worse because this is such a powerful storm. We just do not see storms like this very often, though we have seen Category 4s over the last 4 consecutive years, and that is a new record in the Atlantic Basin. Storm surge watches now up. As I mentioned, 4 to 7 feet of surge is possible with this storm. There's going to be tremendous wave action. This is going to be just a huge impact on the beaches all up the coast. And then beyond that, the question is, where does it go? It's entirely possible that we see direct impacts in parts of South Carolina and North Carolina in particular. If the storm were to move a little bit farther west, it could be very, very close to Florida and Georgia as well. But you see that the Carolinas stick out a little bit more relative to that track, so that increases the chances of more direct impacts. And in fact, we might be looking at a landfall, in fact, in parts of South Carolina or North Carolina. So this is an incredibly serious situation, Tevin, by virtue of the fact that this is just the strongest type of storm imaginable, and it's going to be very, very close to the U.S. coast. An awful lot to be concerned about here over the next several days. Over to you.
And Carl, I'm glad you mentioned a strong storm. I mean, obviously with winds at 185 miles an hour in a Category 5, that's definitely on the top end of the spectrum, if you will. But let's talk pressure here. 911 millibars. Someone walked up to me a second ago and said, can it go any lower?
You know, I don't see why it wouldn't be able to go somewhat lower. When we talk about what is called the maximum potential intensity, that's how strong a storm can get. And that is based on the amount of warmth in the water, not just at the surface, but also to some depth, because as the storm is moving very slowly, it's churning up the water, and sometimes it can churn up cooler water, and that can lead to weakening. But as it's now moving over the Bahamas, that's where the ocean heat content is going to be at its highest. And so even if there is upwelling here, it will continue to bring up warm water. So the maximum potential intensity is well into Category 5 range here, and by some depth. So yes, I would say that it is possible that it could get stronger, though it is hard to imagine. I mean, this is just one of the strongest storms that we have seen, and as I mentioned, right now within the top 6 storms in terms of intensity at landfall in the Atlantic Basin. Just an historic storm by many measures.
I mean, this is beyond textbook. This is something that I'm sure will be studied for the days, the months, and years, and perhaps even decades to come. Carl, thank you for that expert analysis. That, again, a lot of people you will not get anywhere else but here on the Weather Channel. We want to bring you up to speed on what we know right now in Indian River County and in Vero Beach. I told you guys about those shelters that open for South County. There's Indian River Academy. There's also Oslo Middle School, Osceola Magnet. In Central County, there's Clifford Middle School, Glendale Elementary, VBHS. All these are on my Twitter page, @TevinWooten. Please go to that and find out a little bit more if you know family or friends that may be looking for shelter. And also, per the emergency managers here, Uber will be helping and assisting people get to those shelters for free. So check your Uber app for more information on that. They also have a special needs shelter and a pet-friendly shelter, too. Again, all that information is open tomorrow, though, at noon. Meanwhile, though, we do want to let you know what the emergency managers here in Indian River County are feeling and what they are saying to those that may be worrisome about this storm. Take a listen.
The citizens of this county are used to tropical storms, used to hurricanes coming by. They're very reactive. They're very proactive. They take steps to take care of their personal property. Many of them have already left the area and have gone to other areas. But the community as a whole steps up and does the right things and follows the recommendations of local government.
In terms of impacts, what are you all expecting?
We're expecting very strong tropical storm force winds. Our biggest concern right now is the storm surge that's actually going to come with this, and the prediction of those storm surges. We're moderately concerned about topping over the dune lines and those types of things. So we want to make sure that everybody's off that barrier island so they don't get stranded.
All right, so that was the director of the emergency managers here in Indian River County. Of course, we will be speaking with them as we get more information, or as they get more information, and we will certainly bring that to you. Let's go up north a little bit to the coastal plains of Georgia. I believe Felicia Combs, meteorologist Felicia Combs, standing by right now. Felicia, you were in Orlando yesterday. You made the trek north. How are people feeling, and what are you seeing right now in terms of preparations there in Savannah?
Hey, Tevin, thanks. Yeah, that's right. I will say Dorian is the #1 thing on everyone's mind. I checked in yesterday to my hotel, and someone mentioned, hey, we're on the watch for this storm. Just want to let you know how long you're going to be staying. And I said, yeah, I know we're on watch for the storm, trust me. And then this morning, that's all everyone was talking about, asking, how bad do you think it's going to be? Do you really think it's going to hit here? And I said, well, the latest update, this is a monster storm. This is now a Category 5 storm, the strongest near the northwest Bahamas, and regardless of a direct impact or a direct hit from Dorian, you're going to feel impacts all along the southeast coast, and especially for places like Savannah that are so close to the water. So everyone is gearing up. Right now, we're in downtown Savannah, or the river area, and it's a pretty nice day. You can see the wind kind of blowing just on a normal day. What you're looking at is the Savannah River Cruise, one of the steamboats that takes people out. So I spoke with one of the sheriff's officers, and he said this place would just be absolutely packed, given that it's Labor Day weekend. But it's pretty quiet right now. That steamboat usually draws a pretty large crowd. People love to enjoy that. And then just looking across the river here, the Savannah River, toward that next bridge over there. In fact, right past that bridge, that is Beaufort County, South Carolina. And just earlier, the sheriff's office there gave a press conference saying, they just want people to be prepared and keep an eye on the storm, but really take it seriously, even though we're not 100% sure exactly what is going to be happening with Dorian. And I think that's what's on everyone's mind. That forecast code has wobbled back and forth so much over the past week or so that now this is something that people all along the southeast coast, especially here in Savannah, are really thinking about. And what is bringing into to a lot of people's minds, they're remembering Irma. Now, during Irma, this river, the Savannah River that you see here right behind me, this came up and this flooded this area out. There were businesses all along the historic Riverwalk that had to deal with flooding, and this is still strongly in people's minds. So, everyone definitely taking precautions and getting prepared for Dorian here in Savannah. Back to you, Nick.
All right, thanks so much.